Okay, ready to go?
1 second. Having trouble. 1 second. Yes, you may go.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the December 13th meeting of the Salem Public Art Commission, which I'm going to call to order. If the commissioners, my name is Zach Hall, I'm the chair of the commission. If the commissioners could please introduce themselves quickly so that everyone knows who the commissioners are.
Susan Apak, Vice Commissioner, Vice Chair, whatever.
Krista Lauer, Commissioner.
Spencer Emmerich, Commissioner.
And Eduardo, also a commissioner. Yeah. Great. So before we get into today's main topic, we're going to take public comment from anyone wishing to address the commission on topics other than the mural that we're going to talk about today. Are there any other public comments for today's meeting? Okay, hearing none. I'd like to approve the consent agenda and the agenda for today's meeting and the minutes of the November 8th, 2023 meeting. So I'm making a motion to do that. Can I have a second?
So moved. Second.
All commissioners in favor?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda and the meetings are adopted. Okay, moving on to the proposed public mural for 1380 and 1390 Madison Street. Turn off my phone here. I'm now going to open the public hearing for the proposed public mural at that address or that combined address. First, I'm going to ask, are there any conflicts of interest or ex parte contacts that any commissioner would like to declare at this time?
Yep, that would be me. Yeah, I'll be here in support of the applicant, Evan Guilford, as the art coordinator for this mural project.
Okay, and will you be recusing yourself from participating in the voting part of this process, Eduardo?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great. Okay, at this time, could we have the staff presentation?
Yes. Direct your attention to my shared screen. Can everyone see the presentation? Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. I would like to share with you a proposed public mural project that came to us earlier this year. It's located at 1380 and 1390 Madison Street Northeast in Salem. The location is located in an alleyway, or the location of the mural is located in an alleyway, and it's zoned commercial. So it's on 2 commercial buildings abutting each other and adjacent to each other. The painting is installed on the south-facing exterior walls of the 2 commercial buildings right here. The description, I am going to read it from the that we put together, is that the artwork consists of a single painting on the south-facing exterior walls of 2 adjacent and abutting commercial buildings located at 1380 and 1390 Madison Street Northeast in Salem, Oregon. The exterior walls upon which the artwork is painted are on the back side of the buildings and adjacent to and abutting a city-owned alleyway, north of Jefferson Street Northeast and south of Madison Street Northeast. The substrate is a concrete block masonry wall. The paint used is acrylic aerosol spray paint, and the painting will be coated with a clear protective finish. The painting is approximately 50 feet long and 20 feet tall on the entirety of the exterior wall of 1390 Madison Street Northeast. The painting continues uninterrupted for an additional 80 square feet on the adjacent and abutting exterior wall of 1380 Madison Street Northeast. The painting is more particularly described in the photograph and visual rendering attached below. So this is the visual rendering that was submitted at the time of application. However, this is the current unfinished painting. The background to this was there was a complaint that there was a painting starting to come up. And when I talked with Sign Code, this was did not go through the proper channels. And Sign Code gave them the ability to apply for the mural application similarly to other businesses in town that had murals up beforehand and then went through the process. So this is current as finished. This is about a month ago. This is facing northwest. As you can see, it's in a tight alleyway, but it is a City of Salem property. And this is standing in the front of the painting looking north. Now, mural, to have a public mural in the city of Salem, there's two sets of requirements. The first set is outlined in the Salem Revised Code, Chapter 15, Public Art. Within that code, there's 6 criteria on what can be placed in town as murals. Furthermore, the Salem Public Art Commission has guidelines, policies, and procedures that outline 11 criteria. You'll see that they overlap as well. But what I'll go through is each of the criteria and outline how the applicant has demonstrated that they meet the specific criteria. But first off, I'd like to talk about the definition of a mural. Under SRC, Salem Revised Code, Chapter 15, .010 definition section, a public mural means an original, two-dimensional, relative to the plane of the wall upon which the mural is affixed, work of visual art comprised of paint, ceramic or glass tiles or tesserae, executed by hand directly upon or affixed directly to an exterior wall of a building, which has been approved by the Salem Public Art Commission and accepted by the city into its public art collection pursuant to this chapter. A public mural is not an original work of visual art if it is mechanically reproduced or computer generated and printed on a base that will be attached to the wall, such as, by way of illustration but not limitation, limited images digitally printed on vinyl. The public mural program's intent and purpose is to enhance the aesthetics of the city. It is to provide avenues for original artistic expression, encourage community participation in the creation of original artwork, and reduce the incidence of graffiti and other crime. Excuse me. The 6 mandatory criteria under SRC 15 is that the mural must remain in place for not less than 7 years. It can be only applied on non-historic, non-contributing buildings. It cannot be on any residential buildings. However, mixed-use buildings are okay. They're not to include electrical or moving components or lights. The location has to be accessible to the public, and the private property owner must convey an easement to the city. The 11 criteria outlined within the Salem Public Art Commission guidelines, policies, and procedures include an evaluation of the strength of the artist's concept or originality, demonstrated craftsmanship of the artist, appropriateness of the scale to the wall, appropriateness of scale to the neighborhood, the architectural, geographical, sociocultural, and/or historical relevance of mural to the site, the support from owner, neighborhood, businesses, etc., the ability to complete mural on time and on budget. It can be only applied on non-historic, non-contributing buildings. It's not on single-family duplexes or multifamily dwellings. It's not to include electrical, moving components, or lights, and the location has to be accessible to the public. On the left-hand side is the criteria. I'm going to go one by one, and to the right is the applicant's review, is my review of the application. The first one is remain in place for not less than 7 years. Currently, the legal department is working with the property owner and myself to finalize a 7-year lease agreement. B, only non-historic, non-contributing buildings. The current building is not in a historic district and it's not a historic contributing building. C, not on residential buildings. This is on a commercial building and not a residential building. It is not to include electrical moving components. This painting has no electrical moving components or lights. The location has to be accessible to the public. It is. The location is visible to the public from the alleyway north of Jefferson Street Northeast and south of Madison Street Northeast. F, convey easement to the city. Easement agreement is currently being drafted with legal and the property owner. Now, these are the 11 separate SPAC guidelines, policies, and procedures. You will notice that they do overlap, but we just want to be transparent and reviewing all of them. So A, the strength of the artist's concept and originality. We found that it's an original work with graffiti art. It's reflective of a diverse community. The demonstrated craftsmanship of artists. I understand that multiple experienced and established street artists have collaborated to complete this project. Appropriateness of scale to the wall. The painting encompasses the entirety of one building's wall and a limited portion of an abutting wall. The appropriateness of scale to the neighborhood. This mural or this painting currently is tucked away in an alley between commercial buildings and single-family residences. The architectural, geographical, sociocultural, and/or historical relevance of mural to site. The applicant, in the application, pointed out that the design seeks to celebrate artistic diversity using graffiti art. And the reason behind is that the building has been historically vandalized in this alley. Criteria F, support from owner, neighborhood businesses. Public comment received in support of the mural by residents, neighbors, the Northeast Neighborhood Association, and the general public via email and phone messages. G is the ability to complete mural on time and budget. The mural is roughly 50% complete at this time, and the owner is willing and able to complete it as designed. H, only on non-historic, non-contributing buildings. The building is not in a historic district or on an historic building. Not on single-family duplexes or family dwellings, multifamily dwellings. The painting is sited on a commercial building. J is not to include electrical moving components or lights. There's no electrical moving components or lights. And the location has to be accessible to the public. The mural is visible to the public and accessible through an alleyway north of Jefferson Street Northeast and south of Madison Street Northeast. The public comment and feedback received. The public comment period, it was posted on November 13th to December 11th. We received 16 emails in support, actually 17. We received one outside of the reporting time period. 2 emails sent against the mural. We had received 2 phone messages in support, no messages against. We also received a letter from the Northeast Neighbors Neighborhood Association in support of the mural. Today, the SPAC has decision alternatives. One is to approve the proposal as submitted by the applicant and indicated on the drawings. 2 is to approve the proposal with conditions to satisfy specific guidelines. Or 3 is to deny the proposal based on non-compliance with criteria in SRC 15 and SPAC guidelines, policies, and procedures. We must indicate which criteria guidelines are not met and the reasons the criteria guidelines is not met. Now, do the commissioners have any questions of me regarding the report itself?
I have a question of what the text reads on the image.
Spencer, we can direct that to the artists after their presentation. They may cover that in
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so are there any other questions for Keith, for staff at this time?
No, thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Keith.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to call for the applicant's presentation. You have a total of 15 minutes, including any applicant representatives who would like to speak. Please, if you're going to speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'll be the one presenting. My name is Eduardo Diaz Salazar.
Oh,
And-
Eddie, Eduardo, I'm sorry. We'd like to hear from Evan, the property owner first.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I understand that he's on the job site and may need to leave.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm on a job site here. Hopefully my phone holds up on battery power. The mural is just a plan to clean up the alley, the neighborhood. I have a lot of people that go in there and litter, drive back there and unload all of their trash into the alley, and then also painting on the wall, derogatory terms, and just all in all, something that nobody wants to look at. And so I thought if we put something beautiful on that wall, it would, uprise the overall treatment of the alley, as well as something that looks better than a dirty old white wall. That's sort of what's going on there. The plan was to really dress the place up, basically just bring some likeness to it instead of a grungy old alley. The litter is just too much. There's just all kinds of people throwing tires back there, like they carried their life around with them and decided to throw it away in my back alley. And I'm constantly having to go back there and clean all of that up, paying my employees to help me clean that up. And, I just think it's a good way to not only bring some art and some love to the neighborhood. I don't really know what else I can say about it unless there are any questions.
Thanks, Evan. Oh, sorry, Susan, do you have a question?
Evan,
Yeah.
how did you decide on what artist to contact to do the artwork back there?
I've lived in Salem for my whole life, and come across a lot of people, a lot of good people, and so that's just kind of how it happened. I met some people through some other people, and we see eye to eye on what we think looks good and what we think is, something that would help things out, and then we just kind of went to town on it.
Great. Any other questions right now? Or maybe Eduardo, do you want to speak some more? Maybe you could also answer Spencer's question about what the words say.
Okay, yeah. So I don't know if you could pull up the photos of the current mural right now, Keith, before we go into the proposal, just to answer that question.
Yes, sir.
Before we started.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Let me know which one.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, let's start with the left side and then go into the right side, if you're able to.
So, wait, I'm sorry. You didn't send it to me, right? These are the photos?
No, but yeah, okay, so right there, that one's perfect. Okay, so in graffiti, artists use monikers. A moniker is a name that was either given or they chose simply because they like the letter structure. It doesn't mean anything beyond that, besides maybe like they've been using it for a long time, or you know what I mean? It's something that they can work with and something that helps them create their art form in the best of their abilities. And I know there's like a huge thing about the little moniker labels that you see on the tops and ends, and kind of like the little signature pieces of the graffiti. That's just kind of crews, and I'll get into that in the presentation. But a crew is just it's a group of artists that come together, and those two individuals that painted the green pieces on that are from pretty prestigious graffiti crews. The Lord's one, for example, that you see on the bottom left, that's a worldwide crew. Like it's all over. They get invited, flown out to shows in other countries. So it's kind of like a privilege to have them paint something here in our city. So and as far as the what it says on these, the artist on the left side, that's Axis, AKSES, Axis, and the one on the right side, he writes Kango, and KANGO, and yeah, like I said, those are just names. They don't really have any crazy connotation to them. Just the fact that they've been painting them for a while, probably given to them or they chose them themselves. But yeah, and then the UNR right there that you see on the top right left, that's Up and Rising. That's a graffiti crew that was formed in the 90s in San Francisco and moved its way up to the Pacific Northwest. And then the artist in the middle, that was a different artist, and he goes by the name of Bogus. I'm not sure why he chose that name, but he's been writing it for quite some time, and yeah, they just kind of like sign their names or sign their crews of what their involvement is, and crews are a lot different from gangs. Like crews don't go around like shooting people and doing stuff like that. Like they're just all for the arts, and the more people that you have in a crew, the more productions like this you can come up with less hassle of having to recruit others from other places. So I hope that answers the question that you had about what it says.
Thank you.
Eddie,
Yes.
Eduardo, before you get into your presentation, I just wanted to make it clear and transparent your involvement with this project. Your prior professional relationship with Evan, and what your interests are in this if it gets completed.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just here in support of the applicant as the artistic coordinator. I'll be leading the rest of the project just because when it started, it just didn't go through any of the right like methods to do so. So I'm just here trying to facilitate that. I'll be one of the artists painting the wall. And I met Evan through friends. Like they've painted inside his compound before, and that's kind of how we got to know each other. And we went over like the plan and everything. But yeah, there was an artist that took the role and took it upon himself to start it. So yeah, now I'm over here trying to facilitate everything so everything goes through the proper procedures, and we can actually get this done and get it looking how we want to and completed.
Will any of your work be included in this final rendering?
Yes, I'll be doing the hands and the little tree shrubs.
Okay.
Yes, and then the other artists, those are they weren't here with us, but yeah, they'll be at the wall, and they'll have a sketch and everything pretty much similar to that. It's and same color palette. We're gonna do everything as matching and color coordinated as possible just to make it really pop out. But yeah, I'll be in charge of doing the holding hands structure and then like the pine cones and ivy leaves and whatnot.
Okay. Would you like to continue the presentation?
Yes. Yeah, so I made this short presentation just to clarify some things, to get you guys on another perspective, just because I feel like in the city of Salem, when you hear the word graffiti, it kind of like frightens a lot of people, where people don't even know what to think of it. And yeah, I was just trying to shed some positive light on that. Could you switch to the first one?
Is this the first? This what you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so yeah, the right here I got the history of graffiti. Modern graffiti appeared in Philadelphia in the early 1960s, and moved on to New York, and by the late maybe mid 80s. It really blew up in New York City. Like there was gallery shows. Everybody kind of wanted to be a part of the hip hop graffiti scene. And in the center of that picture, the Style Wars, that's actually a documentary. It's an amazing documentary. There's a photographer by the name of Martha Cooperman. She did a lot of the photographs during that time that made it into the New York Times, made it into pretty crazy places. And it was just from there, it just kind of went on all over the US, all over the world. And yeah, that picture on the right side with that train dragon looking the graffiti piece, that one was by an artist named Nichos, and who he's part of the Lord's crew that Kango and Axis are part of that painted the wall. You guys can see it right there on the side of it. That's actually a 500 square meter mural that they painted in the industry town of Austria. So yeah, the Lord's crew is pretty worldwide, and yeah, they've been around since the, I guess, late 80s. And yeah, but first it started here in San Francisco and in the West Coast, and now it's all over the world, all the way up to Vienna. They got some artists in Beijing. Yeah, it's pretty prominent. And yeah, same. This is where I got into crews. Yeah, crews are groups that were formed involving graffiti artists, breakdancers, MCs, DJs. And that was back then when like the hip hop movement first started in the 80s. They didn't just have graffiti artists, they had breakdancers, MCs, which are, like people that go up and sing on microphones and rap and stuff, and DJs. And they were all kind of a little collective. But as the art form evolved, as each I guess each craft got better, they obviously broke off into their own like subgroups and just enhanced what they were doing. But it was essential in hip hop culture, and it made it to what it is today. And yeah, they're different from gangs. They don't go around doing crazy stuff. They're just in it for the love of the art. And yeah, you could continue to the next slide. And here are some examples of graffiti that we have in some cities. We have Freak Alley on the top left side. That's in Ohio, Idaho, I mean. It was created in 2002, and you have everything from street artists to muralists to graffiti artists to just everything. And it spans, I think it's like a whole like 2 city blocks that you just go down, and it's pretty beautiful, and it's ever changing. So that makes it really cool. On the right side, this is a kind of local one. That's a Taylor Electric Supply Company. That was a electric supply company that burnt down, and there were just ruins for a while. And then the city decided, like, hey, let's restructure it a little bit, but leave it open. And it's a parking lot now, but the Portland Street Art Alliance has gotten over 100 artists to just paint the outside, the inside. They have jams there, like every summer. They do like silent discos, like they do all sorts of things. And yeah, they've had artists all over the US come down and cover these walls. And it changes maybe every 4 years. They just recently did it in, I believe, the summer of this year. So that's an older picture. That one was from 2020, but yeah, they have a 2023 edition, and I recommend you guys go check it out. It's over there by Almsey in the little industrial area. It's pretty easy. You guys just type in Taylor Electric Supply Company, and you can walk around there, take pictures, and yeah, it's pretty big. So yeah, you'll have a lot to look at. And then the bottom left corner, that's the Wynwood Art District in Miami, Florida. And that's an entire little subsection of the city called Wynwood. And at first it was just, developing areas, industrial zones. And then the city worked together with some art partners, and we're like, hey, we want to make this like a tourist attraction. And so every year during the month of December, they invite artists from all over the world, and they paint the entire little area of Wynwood. So there's like art going on all through the day, and as soon as the nighttime comes, inside those industrial buildings, they throw art galleries, art shows. So, and they're sponsored by major companies like beer companies, alcohol companies, clothing companies. There's famous people that go there and buy art. So at night, so during the day, it's like a art, you get to see artists painting. And at night, it's a gallery scene, party, kind of whole city blocks just having a good time celebrating art. And yeah, that one's been the most prominent thing in the US, I guess. You could say as far as the blow up of graffiti culture. And then you can continue on to the next one. Yeah, and this is graffiti going into like new heights. Back then people used to think it was just a lowbrow art form that only people in very low economic groups were doing it and everything. But from that stemmed some crazy things. Like in 2007, there was two artists, one by the name of Arab, who was asked by the Smithsonian Institution to create a graffiti show. And they created two panels. They had a train in there, like I believe they're called G-Sco trains, which are pretty big. Like it's kind of like a fountain size inside the Smithsonian with graffiti art. That was like the first time like graffiti was like, okay, wow, like this is way more than just writing on a wall, writing on a train, or writing somewhere underneath a bridge. Like this is people want this now. There's a demand for it. And yeah, that was in 2007, and the art show was called Recognize. Um, and then on the top right, you guys see Beyond the Streets, Los Angeles. That one was bringing artists from all over the West Coast area, really big artists. They had artists from the East Coast and all over the US also, but it mainly started with the artists on the West Coast. And they pretty much created hundreds. I forgot what the building was called, but it was a really big compound, and they just had installations in there. They had people just bringing in all sorts of things, everything from cars. Like people created like a church altar in there. They had a strip club in there, like, but it was all art related. And that's Beyond the Streets has blown up, and they have shows in Amsterdam. They have shows in all over China. They have shows all over Europe. And yeah, so far they only have one in LA. Oh, I think that New York did one last year as well. But it's become I guess, a traveling art show. And with each city that they go to, they bring artists from that area, but also take some artists from their own, to create this massive event that it usually goes on for a month. And yeah, it's just for people's enjoyment. And then the one at the bottom, that was in 2006. That was one of the first times that graffiti was in a gallery, and that was in the Brooklyn Museum. And they just gathered artists from all over the New York area. Some that had more, I guess you could say, fame than others, just because it became an explosive movement in New York. So there's some artists that have a lot of leverage down there, and they were able to showcase their art to all sorts of people. And yeah, and right there I have some links to videos. They're all pretty short. If you guys ever want to just take the time, I don't even know if you can watch them or not, but yeah, there's links there if you guys want to just get some more background on the graffiti culture and each of these areas that I talked about. There's some evidence right there, and people that can fill you guys in a lot better than I can.
Thank you so much, Eduardo. That's interesting and valuable. I am interested in watching some of those, maybe after this. Okay, so I think that concludes the applicant's time. Is there anyone from the neighborhood association today who would like to speak? Yes, you're on mute there.
I'm delighted to recommend the approval of this project. My background is that I'm a professional muralist, did my first mural in 1976. So coming on to 50 years doing public artwork. trained dozens of muralists in Chicago, led programs for the Chicago Public Art Group and the Chicago Mural Group, which is one of the leading mural organizations in the country at that time. And this is a really exciting project in our neighborhood. I know that there's been some comments that people don't understand it. They might feel uncomfortable, but that's sort of the role of artists, right? We kind of push the boundaries sometimes, and nobody has to like or understand every piece of artwork. I learned a lot, Eduardo, from your presentation today, and I did work with some crews of graffiti artists back in the 80s in Chicago. So yeah, I've heard from people in our neighborhood nothing but good things. So I think our community is strongly in support of the project.
Great.
So thank you for presentation, and if there's other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But as I said in my statement, the Public Art Commission has close to 100 different pieces of artwork. And if we were to ask any one of you if you liked every single piece, I don't think everyone would embrace each piece of artwork. So this adds to the diversity and vibrancy of our neighborhood, and we strongly support it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Is there, so I'm gonna open it up for public testimony now with a 5-minute limit per person, please. Keith, do you want
Yes,
to?
Zachary, I have a list in order of when they signed up. We have a Mallory Turner, a Nicole Troba, an Emily Pellegrini, and a Mitchell Daly. I apologize if I butchered your last name. So we can start off with Mallory Turner.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mallory Turner. Do you need my address?
Yes, please.
Okay, 1601 Water Street Northeast, apartment 15
Thank you.
in Salem. Zip code is 97301. I don't have anything written for this, but I support the mural and I would love to see more of it in our city.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
We have Nicole Troba.
Yes. Somebody didn't know from me, so I want to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you. Breaking up a little bit, but see if we can keep going.
Okay. Okay. I'm Nicole Troba. I am the owner of the house directly across from the alley from the mural. Like literally the building lines up exactly with our lot. And every window that looks out of our backyard is filled by the mural, and we love it. My partner Cody and I are both work from home employees, so we were at the house pretty much 24/7 and see the murals as often. We were so excited and elated when we first saw it was going up that we ran out with baked goods to give to the artists involved with the mural. It was a hard thing to describe what art does to the soul, and in that moment only food could describe it. Now I would describe it as the first warm sunny day in spring after spending all fall, winter, and gray and rain. It gives us a sense of hope in our day-to-day lives and in humanity. For the city, it adds a sense of community. So often we hear a guest from the Airbnb next door get excited about the mural. They then go around and take a picture, hashtag Instagram worthy. They then proceed to take a walk around the neighborhood, something that did not happen previously. They are now engaging with the place they are staying. The wall beforehand was a dirty white wall. That wall could have been anywhere. Most of the Salem is strip malls and is in central towns. Putting a mural on the wall gives it a purpose, a destination, and a sense of autonomy. This is my neighborhood. This is my city. A white wall separates us. Art brings us together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nicole. Evan, I think your mic might be open. I think we can hear your dog maybe is wanting to make some comments.
I apologize for that. I was walking through
No problem.
here. I had to get away from my chipper here, so I was
No problem.
kind of
No.
policing for garbage and whatnot.
We have Emily Pellegrini.
I'm Emily Pellegrini. I'm at 1035 Garnet Street Northeast. And I think y'all have said what I wanted to say, that the mural is such a bright spot in, I mean, I know most of us, a lot of us, love our gloomy Salem, but it is so nice to have those bright colors and the joy and the trees in the background and the bright lime greens, and it's a delight. And it's in place of something that clearly was such a detriment. That I really hope we get to see this and more like it, and well done, very well done, everybody involved with it. I think it's just more of that, please. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eddie and Evan and all of y'all.
You, Emily.
Is there a Mitchell Daly? I don't see one.
Yes, I'm in the same household as Mallory.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, so 1601 Water Street Northeast, apartment 15, 97301. And yeah, I've lived in Salem most of my life. I grew up here, and I just to keep it brief, I think that more variety in public artworks is great. I think having murals like this is a great thing for the city. I think having just a wide variety and diversity of artists on display in our city is only good for the city. And I like this piece a lot personally, and I hope that it opens the door for more pieces also to continue to be accepted.
Great. Thank you very much, Mitchell.
And I'm just going to call out a few names. Is there an Aiden Catalani, a Brett Frizzell, or a David Early? Okay, I don't think we have any more speakers.
Okay. So I guess at this point, I'm going to ask if there are any additional questions for staff or of anybody, I guess. Are there any questions for the commissioners? Is there anything else that the applicant wants to say? I think there's pretty clear support, so that we heard today.
I just want to make one more clarification, Mr. Chair. And this is to the applicant as well as artistic coordinator. We need you guys to understand that what is approved in today's meeting, specifically the rendering is honored. Like that's what we are painting and putting up on the wall. Any kind of changes will need to be addressed now. Would you like to speak to that, Eduardo?
No, it's pretty good. It's going to be pretty accurate to the
Okay.
render that I submitted.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Eddie, can I just ask Eddie a question about the design? The one on the top left that's sort of going into the scarf on the woman's head. How is that going to go that far into her headdress or her scarf or whatever? It looked like it was a little bit, and also onto her face. Was that the intention to go really be kind of in the forefront in front of that?
Oh, no, it was just a little bit hard just to get the size, just because just taking the pictures of the wall it's a little bit difficult, just because I can only back up so much, and you can't really get like a wide spectrum of it. So everything on there looks a little bit more condensed, if that makes sense. But no, it's they're not going to be overlapping, and if they do, they're not going to be that overlapping into.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just kind of like it was really hard to make that rendering just because there's like no way you can get a full shot of it.
Yeah, and I would attest to that. Like trying to get in on a good shot is really difficult. So yeah, I understand.
So I guess we understand that there will be some scale differences in the design elements on the wall than what is exactly shown there. Is that okay with what you're saying, Keith? I mean, I heard you saying it has to
Yes.
be done, but there can be some design shifting based on the composition and what works.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Well, if there are no other questions, then I'm going to close the public hearing and we're going to proceed to deliberation. And so I'm going to call a motion to approve this mural. I think we need to make that contingent on the condition of the easement agreement.
Yes.
So that we're in line with the rules. So that's my proposal, is to approve it as submitted with the possible scale changes contingent upon the completion of that agreement with the city. So is there a second for that motion?
I second.
Okay, so we can go ahead and discuss or deliberate on that motion now, commissioners. Does anyone have any thoughts? Have they heard all that, comments they want to make? Susan, yeah.
All right, yeah. I have to say, this is the reason why I wanted to be on the commission for projects like this. And I was over there yesterday. It's beautiful. The only objection I have is that it's in that alley, and I love that the neighbors can look out and see it. I think that's wonderful, but I wish more people could see it. And I really hope that once, and hopefully it will be approved, that we can let everyone in Salem know that they can go there and see it. I think it's a wonderful addition to Salem, to the public art collection, and I just hope we can have more like it. And I thank everybody for all the hard work that they put into it, and all the wonderful comments that kind of made me feel so good. So thank you. And Eduardo, thank you so much for all the effort that you've put into it, and explain. And the history was really interesting and enlightening for those of us who aren't as aware of what's been going on for decades, but it really clarified a lot of things. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'd also just like to agree with what so many others are saying. As the newest member to the commission, when I tell people about this and what we're trying to accomplish, the first question most people ask is, what's going on with the murals? Why aren't there more murals? And so I know this is something that all of us on the commission feel really passionately about, is bringing more awareness and opportunities for artists to beautify our city and our spaces. And I think this mural in particular provides so much opportunity to create conversation, to create understanding and awareness about the history of this art form, and so much opportunity. One thing we're really trying to do is get more people involved and engaged with what not only us as a commission is doing, but what artists are doing in our city and what opportunities are available to them. So I think Evan, Eduardo, all the artists part of this, I think it's a really wonderful thing that's coming to our city.
Thanks, Krista. I think I would second all of that. I feel like we've talked a lot about, in the last months, we've talked a lot about increasing access to public art, which of course can mean where it's placed. It can also mean what it is, which I think was referred to both by the Neighborhood Association and public comment, that different types of genres and different types of artworks increase the accessibility of the artwork by appealing to different kinds of people and challenging us all to think about the broad spectrum that can be art. So I agree. I think this is an interesting piece. I'm glad to see that it's been brought before us. I don't know, Spencer, if you have any comments, we can.
No, I think everyone's kind of touched. It's an excellent example of what our mural program should be. So yeah, I'm excited for it to be finished.
Great. Okay, well, I'm gonna call for a roll count vote on the proposal to pass it contingent on the agreement with the city being finalized. So all commissioners in favor of approving that motion, aye.
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to state our names, Keith, or is our
Yeah,
raising?
let's go for it. It says open roll count vote. Let's go Susan Napak,
Aye.
Krista Lauer,
Aye.
Edward, oh no, Spencer Emmerich,
Aye.
and Zachary Hull.
Aye.
So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, four
Great.
ayes and 1 abstention.
Then the motion passes. So we'll be moving forward. Thank you so much, everybody, for your work and testimony, and really excited to see this move forward and get finalized. So
Very excited.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Evan, too.
You're on mute, Evan, but we think you're saying something.
I just realized that. Thank you all, and thank you so much for your support.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks for going through the motions, Evan. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I did, I'm just glad that everybody, involved likes the art.
We do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, folks are welcome to stick around, but we're going to switch back to the rest of our normal agenda. So if you aren't interested in hearing that, you're welcome to drop off at this moment. So the public hearing is closed.
I think my battery power is going to drop me off.
Okay, great. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
And now Commissioner Eduardo can put his hat back on.
Not back on. All right, thanks everybody for that. All right, dropping back to our normal agenda, we have some discussion item updates. New Public Works Operation Building and Airport Terminal, Keith.
Yes, Alan Dannon provided me a quick update. They are not going to be, or they have, excuse me, the airport funds for $5,300 resulting from the percent for art program will not be transferred over until the beginning of the fiscal year. So that's when we'll be able to start using the funds, but it doesn't prevent us from kind of thinking of what we want to do with that. Now with the new Public Works Operations building, we are just waiting on lighting and labels for it to be placed on with the artwork.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
On Wednesday?
Mhm.
What day is it?
Monday.
On Monday, I had the opportunity to give a update report to City Council on SPAC's activities during 2023, which was, I think, fine. Susan, thanks for coming out to that. Keith, thanks for your support. I don't know if anyone has any feedback about that. It was fairly straightforward, kind of went through, touched on the different things we focused on this year, the beginnings of a strategic plan, the mural code, changes to allow the curvilinear surfaces, the murals we've approved, the public art, percent for art stuff that's happening, the maintenance we've done. So, stuff we're all pretty familiar with. So I think that was, well received. So I don't have anything else really on that item.
We did get just one quick, we did get a question from Councilor Gonzalez regarding the appraisal of our collection. I didn't quite understand it, retail versus insurance. Because if art is not focused mainly on the retail value, maybe we should include more high school artists.
He was asking about whether it's fair market value or insurance value, by which I think he meant replacement value. So typically when you an appraisal, you're either getting replacement value or fair market value. The two are different. Insurance, so I don't know exactly what.
I'll follow up with him.
I'm assuming it's fair market value. That's typically what insurance companies want to do. Replacement values like the absolute uniqueness of the object, and fair market values like what art of a similar type, size, by a similar art by that artist would sell for on the market.
Okay.
So I'm not quite sure what the link between that was and asking for work to be done by grade school or high school kids. I guess I assume it was maybe a commentary on the cost of insurance or something. So I wasn't quite sure what to make of that either. So I think we could go and look at the actual scope of that insurance
Okay.
or that appraisal effort. But if we want to get back to council on that, answer that question.
Will do.
I just wanted to say that both Keith and Zach did great job in getting that presentation together, and it was, I think it was really well received by the council, and they had just kind of been through their revenue task force discussion, so I think they were all like, that's over, let's talk about art. So it was really nice to see and hear them give that, the report. And one thing that was interesting was Mayor Hoy was really excited about the Dave's Hot Chicken murals. He liked those.
True. He specifically called that out and was glad that happened and said it brightened his neighborhood. So he must live there. People like the sort of graffiti art referential stuff. It's good. It's good. Downtown utility box wraps, and then I've got something to add to that too, Keith, when you're done.
Wonderful. Yep. I just want to report that I went and did an inventory of where the downtown revitalization people wanted the artwork photographed. I found that there are a couple missing or might have been mislabeled as to the location of it. And so that kind of, I have something I want to talk about in the new business later on down the line. But the photographer is going to start taking photos on the 18th of December, which requires staff from the convention center to literally go up there, take the painting down for us to photograph. So it's kind of a little bit of pre-work to make sure we have all 24 ready for the photographer. That's all.
I guess kind of adjacent to that is next week I'm going to meet with the downtown development folks to talk about their available spaces. So I'll report back on that after that meeting and sort of what comes out of that. And if you recall, I think from maybe either last month's meeting or 2 months ago now, they came to our meeting and said they wanted to, maybe sponsor some stuff and that they had a bunch of spaces available. And so they were pretty engaged by that idea of, developing an inventory kind of possible spaces that could be used for murals. So just as an aside related to that, I think that I heard from talking to Kate, who spoke to us a while ago from the city of Eugene, that they approach their downtown murals differently, and that they cap them, their time limits at a much shorter period of time. And I'm just bracketing that for a future discussion. It's a way of not trying to have a mural necessarily be perceived as a permanent thing or adopted into the permanent collection, but instead perceived as a bounded, more short-term project where the expectation is different, that it's not requiring a 7-year commitment. So it's just something I don't think we should get into it today really, but I want to put that in people's heads next time we talk about that as a, kind of slightly counterintuitive, but maybe productive way of thinking about lowering the barriers to murals, is that you don't have to commit to this long time frame and maintenance plan and all this stuff. But so that's something I want to talk a little bit about with the development folks next week too, and just kind of see what their feelings are about the use of their canvases, as we'll call them. And then I have some thoughts as well on the inventory stuff, Keith, but we'll wait for new business on that.
Okay.
Just to piggyback on that, what if I know you don't want to talk about it right now about shortening the easement limit, but just if we could know what would entail to change that 7-year to 2 years or whatever it is that we would want to ask for. If we could know about that, then maybe we could discuss it next time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Susan.
thank you. I will put that on the agenda.
You've got the Northgate Neighborhood Hoodview Park fence painting.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, the commission made a motion for to direct staff to do research on it. I have done very little research on it just because of the end of the year reports. But my plan is to approach the Parks Department because signage or the sign permitting department, we are in contact about that fence line. It's really bringing in the bigger stakeholder, which is parks, and seeing if this would apply to all the parks. That would determine how we move forward. Ultimately, we could redefine a wall, a building wall as a fence, or include fence into the definition, but we would have to take a look at the unintended consequences that may may happen. So it's going to take a little bit more time and discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one thing? I think we weren't talking about it just, at least from what I understood, not just from a park standpoint, because it could be also, alleyways, like some people don't have those big concrete walls, but they have fences and they want to paint their fences. So, and also when I was looking at where the funding came from for that project, I did not see anywhere that it came from parks. It was solely, seemed to me, I might be wrong about this, but from the enhancement funds that were allocated by the council. So I didn't see anything. I was purposely looking for that, but I didn't see that they were given a grant. I know there were those grants, I forget what they're called, SF something. I don't think they got a grant for that, but again, I might be wrong, but if I was looking, I saw the list of the grants and was like, I don't think that was on there. So
it could be, it's a 2-year grant term. So it could have been granted last fiscal and executed this fiscal. So what you might have seen in this year's could have been what was granted during this grant cycle. But the information I got directly from Jennifer Keller from the Parks Department was that it was a SPIF grant.
I see. Okay, I'm wrong.
It's all right.
Moving to subcommittee reports, the art collection maintenance has 2 items: the repair of the drummer and rooster.
Yep, those 2 items are now linked as we asked Lee Immonen to provide a quote for the restoration of the black discs in Mirror Pond. He said he would reach out to me on his next visit to Salem, but he hasn't thus far. And so there's been no updated report yet, even though I emailed him for one.
I have a little update. He reached out to me the other day saying, I'm in Salem. Where exactly are the black discs? And then a few seconds later, never mind, I found them.
Okay.
So he was in Salem looking at them, and I did have a brief phone call with him, and he said he had looked at them, he was gonna put together a write-up. So
perfect. I'll put that in my notes.
Yeah. Great.
When was this that he visited?
I think it was on Tuesday.
Okay.
Which would be yesterday.
Thank you.
Stitch together my memory.
Perfect.
And then, so I guess that kind of updates that for now. Social media plan report.
Yeah. So, sorry I was not here last month when social media really kind of took a turn. And we had that Facebook post that ended up having almost 300 likes and 94 comments and really got people talking. So I have, and I know Keith shared last month, have made some revisions so that the social media plan is a little bit more of a living and fluid plan so that it can kind of be altered based on the conversations that have started to happen and just what makes a little more sense. So for this month, it's focused more on regional national artists and regional artists that have made a lasting legacy, an impression, whether that is through just their work. Most of them have been professors and teachers, and engaged with the community in multiple different ways as well. So last week it was Louis Bunce. Tomorrow is going to be Manuel Izquierdo. The following week is going to be Damian Gilly. And then I'm going to finish out the year with a dedication to Susan Trueblood Stewart, who was a very wonderful Salem artist who passed away this past year. So that's kind of how the year will finish out. And then at the start of next month is really going to focus on community-based projects. So I know there has been interest in featuring the Eco Globe and all of that work. So that will be one of them. And then just other projects that really would not be possible in Salem without the involvement and the input of the community, and kind of using that as a spearhead into one of our goals for the following year, which is just to increase awareness, increase engagement, increase availability, and potentially come up with some new projects as well that could involve the community. So that will be the plan for January. And then going a little playful in February, as I've been looking through a lot of the different artworks, there are a lot of birds, and it's National Bird Watching Month in February. So I figured that actually would be kind of fun, since it's a little colder and people can't be outside as much. You can go bird watching through our collection. So it'll just get people to do that. And then March will focus on all of the different women artists that we have in the collection, and then expand that a little bit. And then depending on if there's any kind of updates and murals or anything like that, then hopefully following up with Mural Month. So that's kind of the current plan for the next coming months.
I thought that Eduardo's presentation was pretty interesting. It'd be kind of cool to maybe, when that mural is completed, or
absolutely,
that we could kind of draw on some of that and talk about, Miami and New York and Salem,
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing I've been trying to do as well, as like, again, in this month with the artists that have that are a little bit more well known through the region, is also mentioning in that post where you can find their works in Salem, where you can find them outside of Salem, if they're in other prominent collections throughout the United States, to again just reiterate that while we really love the artists that are Salem based, and that are well known in Salem, our collection extends past our region and past our community. So just really kind of trying to put forth every different avenue that people can be aware and understand the artwork and these artists that are a part of it. So.
Fantastic. So our next item is develop strategic plan, workshop one or more goals. I confess that I have a hard stop in 20 minutes, so I may not be able to participate if we're going to do a deep dive today.
We can, I'd be happy to table that to the next meeting, because there is quite a bit of new business I'd like to kind of get your opinions on.
Okay. So maybe we can, if that's okay, we could table that one.
Yeah, let's table C and D.
So the format for the January 10th meeting. So Keith, we talked briefly at the city council.
The city Salem revised updated its boards and commissions meeting rules. All meetings are going to now be held in a hybrid format. So which means I will have a physical meeting space at the Public Works Operations Building, library, or where have you. The public and the commission is welcome to attend in person, but you are you don't have to attend in person. So that gives you the flexibility to attend from your work or wherever. That is in line with the I believe New Oregon rules for public meetings laws. I guess so. The next question is, so what I've done was I've booked the operations buildings room for the entire year. I'm going to be set up in an office that has enough capacity for 17 attendees, as well as having the video AV live streaming available. So everyone can attend in person or online.
I guess we can kind of leave it to people's individual discretion. I'll try to make it in person for fun to kick off the new year, and I think everyone's welcome, obviously. But if you can't, then you can video in, and we'll do it that way. Moving on to new business, the Library Art Hall interactive kiosk.
Yes. So we have an advocate at the library. His name is David Muller. He works in IT, and he's been made aware of the collection, and he's appreciating it throughout the library as he does his work. There's something called the Library Sprinkles Grant, and it's for employees and staff who have different ideas on how they could spend money. What David suggested was getting an interactive kiosk to support the OSAF's Library Art Hall quarterly exhibits. He envisions, and I agree, we can load this kiosk full of our interactive GIS map, as well as collections of previous OSAF exhibitions in here. We got the okay through legal, but then I also asked Chris Darcy to ensure that it's still okay for us to reproduce the images on here for the public. So still waiting on that from them. IT is currently working on this to lock it down so no one can access the internet from this device. Once it's locked down, people will have the ability to search by artists, to search by media type, and kind of see the exhibits that's been through the library. So once we get rolling on it, I'd be happy to give you guys more progress on it. It was about $2,000, I believe.
It's great.
It's like a huge iPad.
That's fantastic. And that'll be just the library portion of it.
Yes, it's just going to be actually installed in the library art hall, because that is where we have power and data outlets that make it accessible. So more to come.
Great. So the next three kind of are in a lump for me, and I'm just going to grab them for a second, talk about it, because I have a lot of experience doing making inventories of collections, because that's what my business does up in Portland, is we do art inventories for clients. And so one of the stories, which I think was up in discussion items for the utility box issue, was in trying to go find some of the pieces that we wanted to photograph for the utility boxes, couldn't find them. And there's requests to display pieces of public art around in different places, which is great. And there's some pieces in storage in different locations. And we don't really have an updated inventory. So in my mind, these are all kind of, the nexus there is, what's the centralized tool that we're going to use that holds the sort of basic key pieces of information of each piece? It's the artist, the dimensions, the medium, that kind of stuff, and an image. And then how do we, when a piece goes somewhere that's not in storage, so I guess sub point A, where is it stored, and what are the practices currently being used to store it? Something else I think about a fair amount. So we might want to make sure there's some best practices going on there. And then how are we going to check it in and out from storage or it's to a location? So, and formalize that a little bit so that we are tracking that a piece has been checked out. Whoever checks it out, signs for it or does some kind of documentation so that it's not just on someone's wall for 10 years and then goes home with them when they retire, which I think has happened with a few pieces historically in the collection. I've heard anecdotally, and I understand that risk. If you spend a lot of time with an artwork in your office, you might just, come attached to it and think that it's okay to take it home with you, but it's not. It's part of Salem Public Art Collection. And so how do we kind of create some awareness and accountability that these pieces are part of a bigger collection, and that we know, or someone knows, or staff knows that where they live. So there's a kind of interlocked series of issues there that starts with, gathering that information. and then coming up with a process for tracking location changes is what it boils down to, which is both tracking it in the database so you know where it is, but also having some record, kind of a two-way, handshake of we checked this out to wherever, the airport, the city hall lobbies, wherever it went, and someone over there received it, and so that there's a kind of a, hey, where is this thing? If we go looking for it and it's not there, we can try to track down what happened to it. So I don't know. I do know that's an effort. It's going to involve physically locating everything, and then kind of crosswalking whatever we have as information for those pieces into and what we don't have, making sure we collect that information, and then making sure we have a photograph. Typically, inventory photographs are not designed to be marketing photographs, so it doesn't need to be, shot with, nice lighting and, shot to perfection. Though I suppose if thinking about this library, kiosk, if there was an opportunity to expand that to the entire collection and not just what's in the library, then, then drawing on the same nexus of data, having nice photographs would be nice, right? If they're going to get used for wrapping boxes and shown to the public. So there could be an argument for doing higher quality photography while we're going through that effort. So
yeah, Zach, I'm going to piggyback on that one. As someone who's organizing the photos for our social media, the one for today, it was supposed to go out today, but the photo wasn't great. And so I asked Trevor if I could go take a photo, if he could go take another photo of it. So yeah, absolutely. I think if there's opportunity for us to photograph, if we're going to photograph everything regardless, I think it would be beneficial to, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be pristine, but at least usable for more than one potential outlet would be very beneficial.
And to piggyback off of you, Krista, I spoke with Kimberly Fitzgerald, and she's a city's archaeologist, and it does a landmarks committee, and she did some wrapping in the neighborhoods with that. She mentioned when I talked about photographs, oh, are you guys going to do a calendar of the collection? I'm like, oh, that's a wonderful idea, to go along with the utility boxes or something. So to your point, get high quality photos, keep them in a, repository for future use is a good idea. So, yeah.
I think, yeah, go ahead. No,
I just had a question. Does the city have someone that's already pre-contracted with the city to do something like this, or is that something where we'd have to go out and get proposals?
We have photographers as part of our desktop publishing group. The wraps are local contractors.
Okay.
So, there's I don't know how exactly, there's a sort of the making sure there's the right tool. Usually the issue, like in my company, we use a software program called Argus, which is a backbone of a lot of museums. Use that software. That's why we use it. And the trick there is usually providing this connection between the data and the photograph in such a way that it can be accessed easily and visually. But so there might be some thought given to like, what is the tool that it's going to reside in, who has access to it, how easy, there's permissions. So there's the tool, there's permissions, then there's what are the key pieces of information that we want to have for all the pieces. Do we want an artist bio, for example, attached to each record? That can be useful. Do you want to, I know that this is an opportunity to kind of systemically go through all the types of information that we want and have maybe collected already and start tying it together, identify gaps, and then backfill it. I think it's a lot of work we could probably do. Some of it ourselves. We might want some advice, about like how to structure it.
Okay. Well, what I can do at the next meeting is provide you a view of the data that I'm viewing, the data that the GIS has, and kind of see if what gaps there are in terms of using that as a potential database or something else.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Keith, I know when they did the library remodel that a couple of the commissioners oversaw all of that artwork. And I don't know, this is just a shot in the dark, but maybe there's something that they used along those lines that's already set up.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's essentially a spreadsheet with a link with a hyperlink to a photograph.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily. Oh, and where it says the location, I think it was done pre-reinstallation, because it's not updated. So it's like
Okay.
I need to do just another inventory. There seems to appear to have been a protocol for storing the pieces, because in our little police evidence storage locker, we do have wrapped in bubble wrap and a photograph of the piece, and then blue taped around it with the description of the artist. So it looks like there has been care taken there. One thing that I like to think about, because there was the bond measure passed for the seismic retrofit of the Civic Center. They did announce at the Monday meeting the intention of the project moving forward and rearranging the office spaces and office use of the Civic Center. Perhaps we can get in on that conversation. One, to secure a storage spot potentially for our pieces for now and for the future. And then talk about the pieces at the Civic Center that may be impacted. One of my favorite piece I haven't even seen functioning is the fountain in Peace Plaza. That might be something that we could really look towards as part of the seismic upgrades.
On that note, someone at council meeting the other night, who was in the audience there, who's involved with the Library Foundation, kind of pulled me aside and said, we look out on that Peace Plaza and we see the sculpture there, and it's so gray and it's so dismal. And she was wondering whether there could be some color added or mural or something. And I said I didn't really know the history of that piece. And, I know it has those kind of triangular shaped wedges that are around it, which I think I saw a photo where they weren't there. So I don't know if that's part of the piece. I don't know what the intention of the piece, but it's just something to throw out there in light of what you were just talking about, that maybe there's some way that could be enhanced, as part of that project.
And I think the city went to council to request for alternative design method, and so instead of design bid build, they're doing a progressive design build, and I think that gives us an opportunity to get in on it at the ground level, especially when they're talking about softening and greening the Peace Plaza. That could involve bringing more pieces to the plaza as art. There could be like a art statue or a statue garden or something. So there's a lot of opportunity. I just wanted to make sure that we're part of it. And from my understanding, there could be about $200 to $300 million, or $200 to $300,000 for the seismic retrofit for the art piece. And I know that my director, Brian Martin, was wondering if the funds raised from the 0.5% for art could be used for the maintenance of the Earth globe, because that's about the amount. And I said I would need to look at code and also talk to the commissioners, because originally percent for art was used specifically for the acquisition of new pieces, but there was a resolution that changed our SRC to allow for the maintenance use of funds. And so it would, I guess it'll be up to this body to decide if they want to purchase a new piece of art for the facility or spend those funds on maintenance of existing pieces in the collection. So on next meeting, I will get more information for you on that matter.
Just as anecdotally, my mother was a librarian when I was a kid at the Salem Public Library, and I spent many an afternoon in that fountain when it was running. And it is a much different more cheerful space when the water is on. So not that we shouldn't also green it, because it could be pretty cool to have like grass or, you know, comfortable spaces around that fountain. But having that fountain operate is a really different experience than having it, you know, be a silent
Dead
because
space.
it becomes kinetic, right?
Yeah.
And the light goes through the water droplets, and it's just a totally different thing than it is now. So unfortunately, I have a hard stop at 5, so I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Susan, can I ask you to carry on and close out the meeting? And
Sure.
we don't have anything that I need to. We
Nope.
don't need for
I think we covered everything.
Okay, so I'm gonna step away, but unless we're done, if people want to keep talking, I just need to step out.
I just had one question before we stop, about vacancies.
Yes.
Any news?
Oh, we had one application from the city manager's office that got forwarded to us. I didn't think the person was qualified in terms of the experience related to museum art curation, restoration, landscape architecture, or community organization. The person's experience was mainly centered around the restoration of a historic home, and involvement around that. I can share the application with you all, but my recommendation was to wait for additional applications.
I saw that.
We had talked about having, Zach, if you need to go, it's.
Yeah.
Thank
I'm
you,
gonna-
Zach.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good evening, everybody.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
You had mentioned, reaching out to the arts organizations.
Yes,
Has that
email
happened?
I have not sent that email yet.
Okay.
Would you like me to send a draft to the group and perhaps get your feedback, or do you trust that I'll just, it's essentially going to be the Salem Public Art Commission has 2 vacancies currently for these 2 types of members. Here's a link to the application, and then it's a volunteer position appointed by the mayor and city council.
I would be fine with you just
Okay.
sending it out. I think everybody else might. And also, Krista, I was wondering if there's any way on the, you know, when we send out the social media, whether we can have a little PS. Hey, you know, this comes from the Salem Public Art Commission, and there are currently 2 vacancies. I don't know if that would muddy the message or.
Yeah, no, actually, I at this point didn't have a specific artwork actually to talk about for the 1st of January. It was just going to be more kind of like a general overview of here's what's to come this year. So that absolutely, I think, could be the bookend of that is, you know, we're talking about engagement with community and ways for you all to get involved. By the way, here are 2 opportunities for you to actually be part of what we're doing. So yeah, absolutely. I think I can definitely fold that in.
Great. So does that constitute action items, Keith?
Yeah, I got my homework.
Okay. Anybody else? Action items? Nope.
I'll also work with Eduardo and Evan to finalize the easement agreement, and then get those documents signed, sealed, delivered.
Great. Any commissioner comments? Oh, I guess we can adjourn then.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
All right. Good to see
Yeah.
Good night.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay.
Eddie. That was great.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks,
a lot,
Eddie.
everybody. Thanks for coming, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn. Bye-bye.
Have a good holiday, everybody.
You too.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned at 5 p.m.